It is time now to get a look back at this week's headline-making stories in our Reporter's Rewind. And our guest at the round table are Essence Magazine news editor Lauren Williams, Monique John, who is a frequent contributor for Harriet, The Root, and The Feminist Wire, and finally, freelance sports journalist Didier Morais. Welcome to all of you. Glad to have you. You can slide in just a little closer to me, Didier. We don't bite right now. Okay. So let's start with this story that I just reported. We talked about this a little bit. There was this pumpkin festival in New Hampshire. Seems harmless enough, but somehow a riot ensued, and the participants flipped a car, threw bottles at police, and when it was first reported, it was called chaos, as opposed to the protests that happened in Ferguson, which has been presented very differently in the media. So let's talk about this. I'll start here with you. Lauren, do you see a double standard here?
I do. You know, Ferguson definitely, there was an instance of a riot in the very beginning, but Ferguson is a highly organized demonstration of civil disobedience by people who are very upset with the justice system. What happened in Keene is completely different. It was largely meaningless demolition, and the same response wasn't there. So I think it's a huge double standard in the way that we treat issues affecting the Black community and things that are seen as harmless when they're, you know, perpetrated by students who are not of color.
You know, it's so interesting because, you know, I saw one writer make the distinction that even with this chaos, riot, whatever you want to call it in New Hampshire, the police did respond, but there wasn't a big violence response. There's been peaceful protest in Ferguson, and the police responded with tanks and riot gear. How does that strike you, Didier?
I know, for me, you see what's happening in Keene. Over 30 people have gotten injured. And as you said, it's a peaceful demonstration in Ferguson, and you see the double standard. I mean, you see people in Ferguson, and they are characterized as rioters, as thugs, and over here in Keene, these guys are characterized as rowdy or drunken revelers, and you know, those are distinct words, but obviously a complete double standard, and it's unfortunate to see.
I wonder if one of the Ferguson protesters had thrown a bottle at a police officer in Ferguson, if that person would still be alive.
Right, and it just really struck me because when I heard the news story and I thought, okay, that can't be real, because that just sounds like the most trivial thing to ever have happen, a riot at a pumpkin festival.
Yeah.
But the other thing about it was, it kind of struck me as almost being the sense that there's even privilege, like privilege itself is stratified when it comes to talking about ethnic groups gathering together and how there are these different connotations of simply assembly itself. It's like we have these white students who don't have any intentionality, they're just causing violence for no reason. Whereas with Ferguson, there was people gathering together for something that was extremely intentional, and it's something that was to better society, not to worsen it.
And doesn't it, for any of you who want to comment to this, doesn't it speak to the vastly different relationship between police officers in a white community and police officers in a Black community? Do you see that?
Absolutely, yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, it's quite a disparity. And at the same time, you're at least thankful that these type of situations can open your eyes, and you hope positive things can come about from this. At least in Ferguson, where with officers wearing cameras, at least I was able to prompt positive movement. For this situation, it's a little difficult, but obviously, I guess we'll see moving forward.
And I think, I guess I'm grateful for the time that we're in where people on the ground have the power to, you know, have those counter narratives and clarify and say, no, people aren't causing violence. I have photos, I have my own testimony as a protester here on these grounds.
Yeah, social media has gone a long way with that. Let me turn the corner. Let's change subjects and talk about the scandal that has happened, Didier. That's part of the reason we wanted you at the table today with the University of North Carolina, where there has been this fraud that has been going on for decades. And of course, we've heard the result of the 8-month-long investigation. Thousands of students got credit for classes that didn't even exist. First of all, did this surprise you?
It doesn't. I mean, you already know when it comes to athletics, it's winning at all costs, and you want to put your student athletes in the best position to win. And it's such a tragedy in a way, because you hear about concussions and you hear about how, you know, a lot of these football players or basketball players can only read at an 8th grade level, and already when you're putting them in harm's way sports, it's a tough mix. So when you're not giving them the education that they deserve, and these coaches tell the parents, I'm going to take care of your children, and for them not to fulfill that, it's horrible.
I think you touched on a great point, Didier. One of the whistleblowers in the case, she was a learning specialist at UNC. This is not just a matter of a B on a paper being changed to an A. She said she saw dozens of athletes come to UNC reading on a preschool level, which is horrendous. And like you said, parents are sending their kids there expecting, to get the top tier of education, and there's this huge cover-up to sort of just keep them in the game.
And then there's the question of, well, when the game's over, what's left for them? Like, how far can they go if they don't have that literacy, if they don't have those basic skills? How far is football really going to carry them? And I really thought it was extremely humorous to see that this scandal was actually wrapped around specifically the school's African American Studies department, because clearly
the fake classes
they were all only African American Studies classes. And I felt some type of way about that because I majored in Black Studies as a college student myself. And I guess it just struck me, well, I don't know, would this have been handled differently? Would people have reacted to it more quickly if it were within a different school of discipline, like economics or political science, or
if it had been
like
English
that.
literature?
Yeah, there was just something about the way it said that the integrity of those academic disciplines clearly wasn't applied to this discipline about Black history, about Black culture studies, about racial politics.
One of the big questions, Didier, I'll send this back over to you as well to start off, and that is how high up in the administration did people know about this? The president has said he didn't know, that those around him didn't know, that it was only 2 that were a part of this. Do you believe that?
Unfortunately, you will see that they are really good at hiding things. You even hear the UNC basketball coach, Roy Williams, who says that he wasn't aware of this. But some of the football coaches said they heard rumblings. Now, a football team has about 60 to 17 players on there. But for a basketball team, you have about 12 to 15. So Roy Williams only responsible for 12 to 15 players. And you're telling me that he was completely unaware of that when some football coaches who have over 60 players heard some rumblings. That's some shady stuff in my personal opinion. And I believe that at the end of the day, we'll end up with UNC having to vacate some of those college basketball national championships that they won over these last few years.
Yeah, that would really be too bad. Does it ring true that it was really contained to this small group of people?
I don't think so. I think there were coaches, academic advisors. I think this was a large-scale operation, and it further supports the idea that UNC cannot police itself. We cannot depend on that school to really give the justice that's deserved. So I feel like it really needs to come from the NCAA, and they really need to be harsh in their punishment to show other universities that this is not going to be tolerated and it's completely unacceptable.
And to be fair, we got to bring the discussion to a close. This didn't just happen at UNC. This has happened at the Naval Academy, at Harvard. It's gone on a number of places, and it really is unfortunate because it's the student that bears the brunt of this. Thank you so much, Lauren Williams, Monique John, Didier Morais. Good to see you. And you guys come back, okay?
Yes,
All right.
thank you.